Donovan here for another edition of Correct Me If I'm Wrong, and once again we're comfortably ensconced in the Ottawa Life magazine offices in downtown Ottawa, just steps from Parliament Hill. And today we have a very interesting topic that we're going to discuss. It's about energy prices in Ontario in particular. Now, it's no secret to anyone living in Ontario that energy prices have gone through the ceiling in the last 5 years. A lot of people trace this back to a rather perverse energy plan that the province has brought in. One of the challenges, of course, though, is that in a province that has a debt of $312 billion, one of the government's solutions to this has been to sell off the provincial energy utility. And the fact is that, correct me if I'm wrong, but all the numbers show that they can only get a maximum of $9 billion for the sale of Ontario Hydro, and that will pay literally 9 months interest on the provincial debt. So why would we pawn our birthright and sell our energy utility? Well, that's a really good question, and I'm going to have a discussion right now about energy in Ontario with a lady who became quite famous a couple of weeks ago, Katula, hello, who is in town from Buckhorn, which is close to Peterborough. Yep. Now, Kathy, you're in town because today there was a protest against the new carbon pricing scheme that the federal government wants to bring in, but also you're in town to attend an event tomorrow night with Kevin O'Leary, I believe. Yes. But so I want to put that stuff aside because, you know, the federal government's announced they're going ahead with their carbon plan. I want to sort of dig down and go back to the Ontario issue. You went to the Prime Minister's town hall and you got very emotional at one point about your energy bill. It is a provincial matter, but can you just take us back and just tell us what your energy issue was?
Well, I found that since 2014, my hydro bills used to run me. In the summertime, I was paying like $140, $150, and in the winter, I would pay $200 to $300. Once I had a bill that got up to $500. In January of 2015, after a very mild December, I expected to get a hydro bill around $300. My bill came in at $989.
That's pretty shocking.
Yes.
Why was it that high?
I don't know. I normally burn wood, which I hadn't even had to do yet, and I also have a propane fireplace, which I haven't even really used. So I called Hydro One thinking the meter was broken. That was the first thing. This thing's got to be broken. Their explanation to me was, I live rural.
You live rural?
I'm considered rural, yes.
So they told you that because you live rural, that's a problem?
My delivery on that $989 bill was $287.
Had they given you any notice prior to that your rate was going to go up?
No.
So it just jumped, literally hundreds of dollars,
yeah,
and they told you it's because you live rural?
They said it was, they told me that it was my fault, that I must have baseboard heat, and I must have left the baseboard heat on.
Do you have baseboard heat?
I do have it in my home, and the only place I use it is in my bedroom at night, set at 10, and one of my bathrooms set at 10.
Okay, and what other type of heat do you have?
I have a propane fireplace, Napoleon fireplace, that pretty much heats the house. I use on the main floor, and I have a wood fireplace that I use in my family room on the floor that I live in. So
when you went to speak to the Prime Minister, you asked him the question, and can you just remind us of what his response was?
He was shocked. Like, when I told him the price of my hydro bill, like, the look on his face, like, he literally bowed his head, like almost like he was disgusted.
Now, let me ask you, because it was a very emotional moment. Yes, the Prime Minister answered your question. He noted that it's a provincial jurisdiction, I believe. Mm-hmm. Now after that, because you really hit a nerve, I think, with a lot of people in Ontario who are facing these bills, there's a big question that I always get when I've brought this up. After that, you hugged the Prime Minister. You was all chummy. Can you just respond to that? What was that about? Because I think online in today's social media world, if I may, that's been on a reel back again and again and again. So what do you have to say to the critics who say, well then, you know, she had all this criticism for the Prime Minister, then she's hugging the guy?
Well, what that was like, I really feel like he genuinely felt my pain when I was speaking. And I was still shaking and crying through the whole rest of his
Sure.
meeting. And when he came time to thank us for being there, when I looked him in the eye, he said, "Thank you for coming," but then he said, "We're gonna fix it." That's when I broke down. That was like, I truly believed he was gonna fix it.
And do you still believe that?
I haven't heard from him since that meeting.
Have you
and
heard from anyone in his office?
Absolutely not.
Have you heard from anyone in the Premier's office?
No,
Have you heard from anyone at Ontario Hydro?
no,
Have you heard from anyone in the energy ministry?
no,
Have you heard from possibly the CEO of Ontario Hydro who gets paid about $4 million a year?
no,
Nobody. So
Absolutely.
nobody has contacted you since then.
no.
One of the things that I found interesting about this, and I actually spent quite a bit, I don't normally spend a lot of time on social media, but I actually was following this stream on a social media posting that I follow. And I was surprised at how nasty some of the comments were. They were suggesting that, some were suggesting that, you know, at $50,000 a year, that's not poverty.
Yeah.
Others were suggesting that, well, you must have really badly insulated home. Others were suggesting you don't have the proper windows. Obviously, a lot of
Yeah,
things they
well,
don't
it's
know,
my
not
fault.
knowing you. So it's your, what do you respond? What's your response to that?
Well, first of all, the big response I got was people that didn't live in Canada. Like, they were just appalled to think that they could have a bill like that. So I was called a liar by a lot of people that didn't even live in Canada, because who could have bills that high, you know? And so I literally, to prove I wasn't lying, I copied my hydro bill and I posted it right online. And Hydro One did try to call me, and I right after it went online, and I refused to speak to him.
Okay, so now hang on. So Hydro One did call you after that?
Yeah, just after I posted the bill, like 3 days
And
after.
what was the purpose of their call?
They just wanted to know if I would talk to them. And I said, "I'm sorry, I don't. Give me a couple days and you can call me back." They never called me back.
Okay, now I'm just curious, why wouldn't you talk to them when they did call?
Well, because I had tried to talk to them several times throughout the year, and when they shut me off in July, they wouldn't speak to me then. So
now let's go back to July. Why did they shut you off in July?
I had, on July 1st holiday, I paid online for my
Right.
payment. And at that time, I was on what they call a payment plan, where your bills get so high, they allow you to pay it out over a period of time.
Okay.
So I was paying an extra $200 a month on top of my bill. So I paid $680 online on July 1st. On July 6th, I was notified my hydro was shut off.
So was all of this after, so let me, just for accuracy, you'd been paying your bill regularly, then you got this big spike in your bills.
Yeah,
And is that when you started falling behind?
Right, because
Okay.
I'm used to paying $300-400 a month, and suddenly I got an $800 and $900 hydro bill. Well, I live from check to check like a lot of people do.
Right.
So
Right. What would your message be to the Premier or to Ontario Hydro or to the Minister of Energy if you could speak to them directly? And you're, just to be clear, you're saying that after all of this you didn't get a call from the Premier or any official in the government? What about your your local member of Parliament or?
I spoke to Jeff Neal.
Okay.
Neal, I'm sorry. And I took my bills in, and he looked at them and he said, "Your meter's got to be broken." That was his response.
Okay. What would you like to say to the people running our energy utility in the province and to the Premier?
I would like to say that I know I'm not alone. I'm like one of thousands of people who are struggling. Like, my paycheck is going to pay hydro.
Do you think they get it, or they're listening, or that they're listening?
I think now they are listening, because people, like that day when I spoke to Justin Trudeau, I didn't realize it was being televised all over the world. And now that the rest of the world knows, their little secret's out, you know. They have to answer to the people.
Do you expect that when the Prime Minister said he was going to do something, do you expect that he will?
I expected that he would be working with Premier Wynne to take care of it, and I have heard that she's working on, exactly a week later, there was a news thing where she had said she was working on removing the delivery cost.
Okay.
So I think they're working on it. It's
Sure.
a long ways to go.
Okay, well, Kathy, I want to thank you for coming down here today, and I want to point out to our listeners that I've obviously just met Kathy today. She's not a political person.
No.
She's not an activist or anything like this.
Before I go from now on.
Well, voting is important, but it's important that yeah, I think the thing that grabbed a lot of people, myself included, was your authenticity. And I think it's interesting that you're still waiting to hear from people. So we'll follow that and see what happens. Anyways, that's it for today. For Correct Me If I'm Wrong, I want to thank all of our listeners again, and we're again at Ottawa Life Magazine here in downtown Ottawa. Thank you very much.